October 20th, meeting of the Design and Review Board. Let's go ahead and get started. Let's see, it's been a while since I've done this. Important notice regarding city meetings. This meeting is being conducted utilizing teleconferencing and electronic means consistent with the state of California executive orders regarding the COVID-19 pandemic. Live stream and Zoom is being used for this meeting. In case of technical issues, meetings will be uploaded to the city's website as soon as possible after the meeting. We'll be conducting today's meeting in a virtual setting. Design and Review Board members and staff are participating from remote locations, practicing appropriate social distancing. Members of the public may view and listen to the meeting by use of Zoom, as noted in the city's website and noted on the agenda. Members of the public wishing to speak may do so during public comment or may comment on agenda items during the discussion of each item and must be logged into Zoom. Anyone using abusive, vulgar, offensive, threatening, or harassing language, personal attacks of any kind, or offensive terms that target specific individuals or groups will be muted and removed from the meeting. And I think that concludes that portion of our meeting. So welcome, everybody. Let's see. How about a roll call?
All right, and I've asked John to go ahead and ask the official DRB liaison, staff liaison of the committee to start taking over these duties. So go ahead, John.
All right, so I will start with Chair Ted Lutheran.
Here.
Vice Chair Lars Lamberg.
Here.
Marshall Balfe. I believe he was absent.
Yep.
Carrie Bush.
Yep, here.
And Christine Lovell.
Here.
Right.
All right, thank you for that. Let's see, any planning department areas of interest, items of interest?
All right, John, I know you're probably not prepared for this, but if you do have anything that you want to report on, you can go ahead and do that. Otherwise, I'll jump in.
I don't have anything major as of right now, but I am working on the housing element update for the city of Sebastopol. So we might be asking the DRB and other boards and commissions for their input on project sites or anything within city limits as far as relating to housing. So be prepared for some input, hopefully, on that.
Sounds good.
Thanks.
Any questions from any of our, oh, go ahead.
So a couple of things to supplement. I think I did send out a request for photographs of housing within the city. So if you do have any of those that are okay to publish in a housing element or using some of our outreach materials, it would be great if you could send those to John. Other items that are of interest to the board, or I hope are interest to the board, or maybe, the next Tuesday at our planning commission meeting, we are having a couple of presentations. One is our draft local hazard mitigation plan that the city has been working on for the last year. That plan is just got published today, so it's hot off the presses, or hot off the PDF maker, I guess, as it were. You can access it, and I'm happy to send you all a link, but it's on the fire department's web page on the city, so you can take a look at that. And we also will have a presentation to discuss the design basis and input from the folks working on the Calder Creek Naturalization Project. That'll be the second item on the agenda. Our planning commission meetings now start at 6 p.m. So if you do join, I anticipate the local hazard plan will take at least an hour, and then the Calder Creek Naturalization Project will start immediately after that, probably around 7 or a little bit after 7. We do know the dates, and we're creating a flyer for that I can get to the board members for the future design alternatives discussion, which will be in first meeting in December, which I believe is December 9th. And then the design alternative chosen concept will be presented in January. Make sure we update the board as we move along on that. And then the council did approve last night 6 sculptures, and actually I'll let Lars talk a little bit about that later when we get to the subcommittee updates for Ives Park. And we do have a couple of DRB vacancies or terms coming to the close end of December, and I can check on who, if you don't know who it is, I can check and let you all know. Lars, as you're raising your hand, thank you. Yeah, I think you were one of them, Lars. I think there's Ron Harry's vacancy is another one. And I thought I'll check and let you know towards the end of the meeting whose term is all up. If you do want to reapply, which I encourage you all to do, I am happy to dig out and find your existing applications. So you don't have to go through that paperwork stuff again.
Sounds great. Thanks, Carrie. Any questions of staff about things going on in the city? All right, seeing none. Let's see, we didn't have any minutes this week. So do we have any comments from the public on items not on our agenda? Did we receive anything? Seeing none, I will continue on. So it gets us to our regular agenda item, 700 Gravenstein Highway North, the Redwood Marketplace Sign Program. So can we have a staff report on that, please?
Yes, so I'll be presenting that today. And I think unfortunately this will be one of my last design review board meetings, as John will be taking over my position as the permanent planner. So good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and members of the design review board. My name is Jeffrey Sutherland. I'm the contract planner working on behalf of the city's festival. Here for your consideration is a sign review major sign program update in order to update the existing monument sign at the entrance of the Redwood Marketplace Shopping Center, as well as updating existing tenant signs and a sign exception in order to allow a new monument sign at the northeast corner located at 700 Gravenstein Highway North. Previous planning entitlements for the Redwood Marketplace include the original sign program approved by the Design Review Board on March 16th, 2016. The previous approval also included a sign exception to allow a second freestanding monument sign at the fringe of the property where normally only one is allowed. However, that sign exception was never implemented due to significant cost implications and a change in direction by the project proponents. The general plan land use designation for the site is general commercial. The project is zoned general commercial as well. As stated in the staff report, the project is consistent with general plan land use and zoning designations for the project site. The project is subject to Chapter 17.120 sign regulations of the city's zoning code. The sign program is consistent with the city's signage regulations required by the zoning code, with the exception of the sign exception, as there's a second monument sign being proposed, which exceeds the maximum allowance of one monument sign. In addition, staff finds that the signage is generally compatible with the neighborhood and general character of the city's festival, in that it would result in the development of new and improved existing signage that would enhance a large aging shopping center that has a highly visible location on Gravenstein Highway North. As proposed, the currently existing internally illuminated signage will remain on the existing tenant spaces, but will be updated to be more internally consistent with the newly proposed freestanding signage. The proposed monument sign, which is sign F, as noted in the application materials, is proposed to be externally illuminated. Generally, the design guidelines prefer that internal illumination of proposed signage be avoided and that external lighting be used for signage. However, where internal illumination currently exists within the shopping center, the background of the signage is opaque so that light shines through the lettering and images only, as preferred by the city's design guidelines. At this time, staff recommends that the illumination systems include a timer so that lights will be turned off during late night and early morning hours, as may be determined by the design review board. The board should also consider whether internal illumination is a suitable option for tenant signs or not. And if the review process for the sign program is suitable. Staff recommends that the board review the sign exception and determine if a sign exception for the second monument sign meets the criteria within the staff report. Staff further recommends that the board approve the major sign program update based on the facts, findings, and analysis set forth in the subject to the conditions of approval contained herein. Are there any questions at this time?
All right, thank you, Jeff. Any questions from board members?
Was that really 5 years ago when we reviewed that project at the Redwood Marketplace?
Correct, yeah.
Oh, man.
I obviously wasn't here for that, but yes, it was 5 years ago.
Wow.
It's okay, Jeff. I wasn't here for it either.
He wasn't here for it either.
Remember that, Ted?
I remember it. I was here.
Ted and probably Christine as well, I remember, right?
Christine was there, yeah.
All right.
Indeed.
Yikes.
So I have a question of staff. I'm not sure I could quite understand it. It's sort of hard to hear, just it kind of mumbled. But the internally illuminated signs, the requests for those are for signs that have been in the past internally illuminated. So there's no new internally illuminated signs. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yeah, correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, because it appears to me that this is really a makeover of the existing. So we can.
Yeah, that is a correct assumption. Yeah, it's basically just a facelift of the existing signage, with the exception of the newly or the proposed monument sign with the sign exception.
Sign type F. Yeah.
So
Okay.
I have a question. So I'm looking at these different sign types, and so the one that says "Lucky" is an internally illuminated sign, and they're proposing sort of all of those that are on the fascia will still stay like that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And the big empty building that used to say CVS, what are we going to put over there? Sorry, never mind.
Can I answer that? Do you guys mind?
Oh no.
Yeah, I think the next step is Aaron, if you'd like to make a presentation, kind of explain this to us. That'd be
Sure.
great.
Ted, nice to see you again.
Good to see you too.
Didn't realize you were here, but yeah. So basically, every sign that's there currently, just short of the large front monument, is staying the same. All we're doing is when new tenants come in, we're going to utilize the old way that they were and just make them look a little bit newer. It's basically just the coloring of them. The Lucky is there. There's not a whole lot we can do because it's already existing. CVS is actually owned by a different property. It's not actually owned by Wright Contracting, but it does fall within this property. So I would think that would just go through your review board if they want to change the name, or if somebody else goes in there and it based on Sebastopol's laws and regs on that one. But that's all going to stay the same. The main monument is just getting a facelift. It's not the prettiest thing in the world right now, even as we're going to redo it, but it's kind of what we have to work with. We don't want to pull the structure down. We see just new skins on it, getting rid of the internal illumination also in that clock that's there. And it's going to be upshot lighting onto it, so external. And then the only addition is over by, for Mary's and to appease the larger tenants to bring them in, is to put that little tombstone monument at the far corner, so that there's actually some kind of tenant presence there. Because right now, when you pull into that little side street and go across the main road, you can't tell that there's anything there. You can't even see the other monument because the trees are in the way. So it's just an update, and we simplified the sign program based on 2016's, which I think was way too delusional of grandeur from them for what can be cost effective to do. So this is the best or most cost effective way to enhance this property from the front without getting rid of everything and redoing new items. I can't say in the future we may be at the same place with you guys if they do want to put some money into redoing all the internal stuff, but for now there's no future plans.
Gotcha. Thanks, Aaron. And any questions? Any other questions?
Can I ask one question, Aaron? So this new second monument sign is not at the corner of that street, it looks like, but it's sort of in front of the, what was it the bank? No, was it a bank building on that corner?
I think it was a bank. I'm not sure what it was. Tenant F. Yeah, if you go to it actually is too close to the sidewalk. If you go farther over,
Mhm.
you have the 5-foot rule because that sidewalk kind of angles. So it was easier for us to kind of move it in a little bit and try and figure out another option.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Yep.
Christine, any questions?
Just one question. The original tall sign, how tall is that?
It is
Same 12 feet, is that 12 feet?
It's going to stay the exact same. It's 152 inches, so about 12 and a half feet.
Okay, great, thanks.
Yeah, so the where you have tenant names, are those going to be using the tenant's logos, or is that going to be just a standard typeface?
So it kind of depends because they're dealing with some national brands that require, like they have. It's interesting listening to some of their stuff from like Starbucks proposing things in there and other items that they require just text, but they're stylized text. So it's almost like it's their logo. So that one we don't have 100% defined. And those spots are only for specific acre tenants that have a larger footprint, which it's noted in there. So most likely it's not going to be just logos, but it will be a text and it may incorporate a logo.
Okay. Are they going to be the tenant's colors, or are they all going to be one color?
They're going to be one color. They're going to
Okay.
sit as the colors that's standing here. It's just, I mean, as far as we can do this, I mean, that's the way it's proposed. White on that burgundy or that off brown kind of color.
Gotcha. Okay. And then on the other one, it would be the off
Reverse.
brown color on a beige or tan background.
Yeah, it's an actual Pantone color. It doesn't look nearly as bad in person as it does on these drawings.
All right. And then the internal tenant signs, so those really aren't changing at all, right? They're just the
No, I
existing
just put
cabinets
tenants
with
on them
them.
because I didn't want to put some generic thing on there.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah. So all the tenant stuff, the individual letters, all that, all the on-building stuff stays the same. You're adding a hanging projecting sign for under the.
Yeah, and
the arcade.
that was approved in the 2016 program.
Yeah.
It was never implemented. Some people put random hideous kind of things that they're going to get rid of that they just did on their own. And again, if you look back up, the main tenants are only allowed, 3 signs at max anyway. So it's going to be either monument or a hanging sign or their building sign. And if their building sign has 2, that already counts as 2 signs.
Yeah. And I think those hanging projecting signs would be pretty nice if you're walking down the arcade.
Yeah, it makes it
Tenant
easier.
signs. Yeah, tenant signs outboard of you. So I think that all makes sense. All right. Any other questions?
I actually have a question when folks are done. But
Oh, okay.
wait.
So my one question is, how am I going to know the time when I'm driving by? That's one question.
Say that again.
But no, seriously, my real question is the uplights. I think you call them upshot lighting. So I was curious, how does that affect the night sky ordinance and that sort of thing? Is it a shrouded uplight? Is it on a timer as well? How would that work?
Technically, we're not legally able to do those, so that's not in the sign program.
Okay.
We're electrical contractors, but we can't do lighting, and you definitely don't want to do in your home. But as far as I know, they would be focused lighting, so it doesn't go past the top of the monument. And I believe the main lighting, as we've talked with Mike Wright and them, is going to be is pointed towards the tenant portion versus the actual upper portion. But there shouldn't be any upward light pollution, as far as I know from them. So it'd be a soft floodlight.
Mm-hmm. And my question for planning might be, is that allowable?
So I can speak to that. So we do have design guidelines regarding that. And I don't think we have it. Well, I know we don't have an actual dark sky ordinance yet, but it is in our general plan and it is in our in our design guidelines. What I would suggest is that we actually add a condition of approval that ensures that the lights be adjustable so that they can be adjusted to make sure that they don't bleed past any awnings or overhangs.
For sure.
And then when John goes out to kind of do the final inspection, you know, make sure we can have the lights on so he can see the level of lights and make sure that, you know.
Yeah.
The
So
nice thing is if it happens during the winter time, you know, just schedule the inspection at like 4:35 and you'll be able to actually see it and adjust those easily.
yeah, I think the two good things with today's technology and LEDs that we do use, it's much easier to get a focus light and to get a specific light where we need it. They're also adjustable, but we still have to go to the design and building permit anyway for these signs after this. So I think if it's possible, we could put it within the building permit to redo the signs, and we can then put the lighting into there. And that would suffice for the actual permit, right? Would that be easier?
Well, so what we would want to do is put a condition of approval on to this overall sign program. That way people know if you're doing the individual designs and they come in, John, you know, they wrote signage stuff to the planning department, but when you
Sure.
submit your building permit, John will be reminded, oh yeah, I need to check and make sure that the lighting
Sure.
meets the criteria.
Yeah, and that's easy for me to say because I'm just going to pass it along to right contracting and say this doesn't happen unless you guys do this. So here you go. For sure.
All right, any other questions of our applicant? And Carrie, did you have something else?
Yeah, I just had a question for Aaron, and this may be a question for the owners, but I'm just curious, when you talk about the tenants are going to be removing the signs that aren't allowed. When I did my site visit, I also did notice some yard signs for the smoke shop, which is absolutely not allowed. How do you know how these regulations will be communicated to the tenants so they know what the rules are and know what they have to take down? You're muted.
Sorry, for a second, it muted out for a second. Could you say that again after the smoke shop part?
Yeah, so you in responding to one of the questions, you noted that some of the tenants have done some crazy stuff that's not consistent with the signage, and they're going to be removing those. And I'm gonna add in the yard signs or any of the, you know, the wavy flag signs, the banners, pole signs, which we don't allow in town.
Sure.
Rather than us having to write code enforcement letters, how are you going to communicate that to the tenants?
So that's, yes, that's not really me or in the purview of any of this, because I have no control over the tenants. I do know that Mike and them talked about getting rid of all that when we were at their meeting. He couldn't stand it, that they were just putting stuff up, but I think that's more of them as the owners to enforce that. I mean, I don't really have I can't even go touch the
maybe you
signs.
can provide us with the right folks to contact and we can talk to them about that.
Yeah, and I didn't see any of the little yard signs. I didn't even pay attention. I only saw some of the hanging signs that were there that looked like they've been there for 20 some odd years. I don't even know how long some of those have been there. But if those are going to be put into the sign program, then as long as they meet the guidelines, those are allowed. Do you need me to say anything to the rights, or is that something you guys would do to them?
So I think we can, definitely communicate the not allowed signs need to come down as part of this. And thank you for saving us the time of writing them a code compliance letter. When Jeff issues the approval letter, I'll ask him to add just a text reminder in there.
For sure.
But if you can communicate to the rights, that'd be great. This is a good opportunity to clean up the site in that way.
For clarity for me, just so I know, because I'm a sign guy, are there any temporary signs allotted? Do even all yard and banners have to be gone through the permitting department?
We do allow sandwich boards, but they do need to go through the planning department. It's an administrative permit, but because we want to make sure they're not blocking sidewalks and they're not, plastic junk, but they're actually nicely designed kind of things. The movable, the stuff that waves in the flag signs and stuff that waves in the air, and then just the yard signs. If they are commercial signage, they are not allowed. If it's sort of protected free speech, Black Lives Matter, or we all live here, that kind of stuff, or, the drought is here. We do allow non-commercial signage.
Okay.
But, in a commercial center, we don't generally see those, as they're usually residential areas.
Yeah, I would think the only that's the main, like Burger King or something like that, that might actually do that. But
Yeah, we have in our code, most of the temporary signs we allow are within the windows.
okay,
There's a certain percentage and amount we allow in the windows.
okay, just my own information.
All right, any other questions from board members? All right, seeing none, let's pull it back to the board for a little discussion. Aaron, thank you very much. Anybody have comments? I see shaking of heads. Christine, I can't see you, so I'll just ask, any comments?
No, I don't have any.
Okay. Lars, anything?
No comments.
No comment. Carrie, no comment?
No, I really don't have any comments either. I'd kind of like to know what you have to say, actually, Ted, since you're, sure.
Yeah. Well, this is, I guess I feel like this is unfortunate that it's a makeover of an existing, sign program that's got to be going back to the late 80s, early 90s. So I'm going to be a little surprised if they go out there in the field and start removing faces and find out that the cabinets are just, and the structure is just completely shot. So it's a little unfortunate. It's a great opportunity to really make over and breathe some new life into the center. And so it's just kind of a missed opportunity. And, I'm not sure it's really, it'll look fresh and clean, and I guess that's an improvement. But it's not really adding to the experience of the place. So in that regard, it makes me a little sad. But I get it. And, if you're going to do something like this and you need to get tenant names out there, I like that it's externally lit. The tenant logos in one color, I think, is fine. Maintaining the status quo on the tenant signs, it kind of is what it is. So that's kind of how I feel about it. I do think we probably should add a condition of approval relative to lighting, that it be shielded and adjustable to allow focusing on the signage surfaces. I think timers and dimmers are a good idea. I think we might want to document that the tenant names on the monument signs are going to be, all one color, because I know that there's going to be a lot of pressure from national brands to use their colors. And getting blues and yellows and other reds on red backgrounds, I could see, that would be a problem, and they're going to get friction about it, because I fight that fight all the time, as with national brands, especially the beige background and the red letters, because a lot of people are going to be opposed to reddish, brownish, those sorts of things. So we probably should document the fact that they are going to be project standard colors. And other than that, yeah, it's kind of all I've got.
Do you think there's some merit to the notion of it being a monument sign now that it didn't have monuments before? I mean, before it was a sign that said Redwood Marketplace. Now we know who the tenants are, and possibly how that identifies the place itself. I mean, I think there's some value to that, to the sign.
Yeah, there is. To tell you the truth, I think if I had a choice, I would probably bring the Redwood Marketplace importance down and bring up your major tenant names. That's kind of how people navigate. I'm sure most people refer to that as the Lucky Shopping Center, the Safeway Shopping Center. That's kind of how we navigate. So kind of redistributing some of the emphasis would probably be a wise thing to do, but given the existing structure, it's difficult. But yeah, I do agree that there's some value to bringing those tenant names forward out onto the street. I do think there's value in bringing the address out onto the street because a lot of people also are navigating by address. So I do think there's value in that. And I think there's value in just freshening it up and making it, nice and new and clean and fresh coat of paint.
Do you mind if I say something, Ted?
No, go ahead, Aaron.
So 100% agree with Ted. I've worked together on stuff, and the first thing we presented was pulling everything out and redoing everything. And then we gave them the 6-figure budget that it was going to cost to go through that. And with not having full tenancy and having big tenants in and out and other issues, they weren't comfortable with the money because of, obviously we're doing this during COVID and all the other stuff. It is our future intent to see you guys again for us to revamp the whole facility. And it's their intent to do that also. But as you said, the only thing right now in order for us to even change the monument, we had to come to you to redo the program because the 2016 program didn't allow for us to do what we want to do, at least just for even a temporary. So this is actually our temporary and the only way for us to even get it done in any kind of timely manner. But as a sign guy and loving to sell signs, I am 100% with you to push for Mike and them to redo the whole center within the next couple of years.
Yeah, great. Yeah, it's good to hear because the place needs it. And I do think that signage could go a long way to really improving that arrival experience of this place. And, signage, tell you the truth, signage and landscape would go a long way. Re-landscaping that front edge and, creating some nicer, more inhabitable places on this site would be great. So that would be great. I hope they find a way to do that and maybe get some new tenant prospects that'll allow them to move forward with that. Sounds good. Any other discussion? And if not, I think I'll throw a motion on the table just for fun. Hearing none. Okay. I am going to move to approve the proposed sign program for the Redwood Marketplace with the condition that the lighting be shielded and adjustable to allow focus of the lighting on signage surfaces only. That all lighting be on timers and dimmers. That the tenant signs on the monument signs are it's okay to utilize a tenant's logo type, but the names and the logos shall all be in project standard colors. And can we also add a provision that says existing non-compliant signage shall be removed prior to final approval of the building permit? Is that something
You're
we
making
can?
the motion, Ted, so you can do that. And I bless your soul for adding that. Thank you.
I'm gonna throw it in there. And that's the end of my motion.
I'll second.
All right, we got a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Just
Hearing
to
and
say,
seeing.
well
Oh.
said, Ted, I wholeheartedly approve of your motion there. And well
Thanks,
done
Christine.
as usual.
I appreciate that. All right, no further discussion. Let's call the question. All in favor, say aye and raise a hand. Aye.
Aye.
Sounds like we have passed unanimously. Aaron, thanks for bringing it in. Look forward to seeing you in the next couple of years.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, gals, everybody.
Thanks,
See you
Aaron.
guys soon.
All right, see you later. All right. What else do we have cooking? Subcommittee updates.
Art.
That would be me, I guess.
Art. Come on, Art. Art.
Art, I think I gave the update last time, more or less, but we so they now have a community sculpture garden at Ives Park. 8 concrete pads were poured. We did a call. We got a few entries, of which 6 were deemed worthy of those new pads, and so that the Public Art Committee recommended these 6 to the City Council, and they approved it yesterday. So those 6 are we have to figure out which one goes where, and then also if we can figure out how to do another kind of reach out for the other 2. But the sticks are great. It'll be a really awesome variety of work in the park. It'll be really nice. So
That's exciting.
a lot of hard work from our committee to put that all together over many months, and it's nice to see it come together.
Is there an unveiling, Lars? Is there a
Party?
A party?
Yeah, that too, of course. But
Oh, a big,
you read right through me, man. It's clear, dude. It's like,
Is there a party? Is there free food?
yeah, that too. You know, I'm talking about drinks now, but
there nothing planned at the moment, but
Okay.
we have to figure out signage and PR as part of it. But,
cool.
And yeah,
Oh.
and yes, we will have some sort of groundbreaking. Well, obviously the ground has already been broken, but there will be a opening ceremony or whatever you want to call it.
mhm. Yeah, we can have the big fabric over each.
Yeah. Oh,
Reveal, big reveal.
Sounds good. Anything else to report?
Any other subcommittee updates?
All
All right, I have a couple other items. One, I did look up the terms that are ending this year. And so we do have 3. Lars, you're right, you're on that list. Christine is another. And then Ron Harry's, which is a general member of the public. So if you know of someone who might be good on this committee, if you let John and myself know, we'd be more than happy to reach out to them to get that position filled. And Lars, I assume you're in the architect position. And Christine, I can't quite remember which category. Do you know which category you are?
I have no idea.
Other.
All right, you are category C.
The B category, I think, whatever that is.
Okay. The notices and applications for that will be posted. I just reviewed the drafts of those today for city clerk. So I will send those or link to those out to the committee, up to the board when they are available. And then,
So Carrie, I have a question for you regarding that.
Sure.
So the general member is a general contractor, an appropriate person for that?
Sure. So yeah, so there's a couple of things with our.
I do know David Lawson. He's a general contractor in Sebastopol, and he expressed an interest in that position, and I could send you his email address.
Yeah, that would be great. Yeah. Yeah, you can be someone who's a specialist as well as the general member of the public. There's no law against that. And additionally, the way the regulating ordinance is structured, it does note that if the council doesn't get applications for a particular category, they can go to a different category to appoint to fill the board as well. So there's some flexibility there for the board, for the council, and for the DRB.
Carrie, how has all this been advertised? I'm just curious on positions for the DRB. Is it just
Sure? Yeah. So, and open to suggestions right now. So we do have a legal newspaper notice that's required. It's advertised at City Hall, but we also put it in our city e-newsletter and on the city's website. Mm-hmm. Usually there's a news article sort of on the front page when you go to the city's website. There's news articles about this or that or the other happenings in town. And so I know the clerk generally does a news article for that to announce the openings. And I think we have a couple of email lists that we send stuff out to. However, if there are venues that you think would be helpful to get the word out, that would be great. I will note we do have 3 public art committee terms. I think those are also 2-year terms, just like this committee. I know at least 2 of those will reapply. They're filling partial terms, and I think they will definitely be interested. The 3rd, I think she will, but she was last time the public art committee had more folks than a good healthy application round for that. We also have an opening, a couple of openings on our planning commission as well. We do not have categories for that, other than we have one member that can be outside city limits, and that is already filled, and that's not coming to an end at this point. So we do have 2 seats that can be filled by either a resident of the city or someone who owns a business in the city.
All right.
Thanks.
And since we have a little bit more time, if I may, Chair, we do have a good, healthy list for a tour of projects going. And I was curious how people wanted to set a date for that. I believe John has items, pretty robust items for the next couple of meetings in November. November 3rd. Well, John, why don't you give just a brief overview of the upcoming meetings?
Yeah, so the November 3rd meeting, we have scheduled the Habitat for Humanity that's on North Main Street. They're coming in for design guideline recommendations. They already went through the Planning Commission preliminary review, and we felt it was a good idea to have them come to you guys as well to get some more ideas for their project in regards to building style and materials and whatnot. And the second item that will be on the following meeting after that one is the 771 First Street project. That is a subdivision that was approved back in, I believe, 2000, and there's some language within the resolution that's kind of hard to decipher. So we're trying to get a better idea of what the allowable building envelope and size of the home that they're proposing for that project is going to be. From what they,
and I believe all 4 of these, before you got on board, John, all 4 members who are here today at least were on the first hearing that was continued.
Okay.
That's the Thrive construction project for the home, the very large home that was submitted. And so yeah, we're going to be having we don't have a resubmittal yet, but we know the board wanted to discuss how to interpret that ordinance in terms of giving some guidance to the applicant on size.
That'd be great. Yeah.
So we're going to have a meeting to clarify that kind of thing. We may or may not have a resubmittal as part of that.
We're not anticipating having a resubmittal.
Okay.
So there were 2 ways this could go. One was they didn't do that and just sort of guessed, which seems like an awful lot of work and puts the board in a pretty difficult position if someone's done a lot of work and it's not anywhere where you would think. So instead, we're bringing forward an item to just discuss the ordinance itself and interpret that. And of note, there are actually 3 vacant parcels as part of that ordinance. And so this would help understand for the future development of those other 2 parcels as well, and give those owners guidance.
Wouldn't that wording be more a purview of the planning commission? I mean, they came up with that.
The city council came up with it, but they assigned responsibility to interpret it and do design review to the design review board.
When did this happen?
When?
Would you say, John, 2000?
I believe the ordinance was written in 2000.
So in 2000, let's just going to get clarification on this. In 2000, the city council assigned interpretation of that language to the design review board?
Yes, they approved the subdivision. So the city council approves all subdivisions. In approving the subdivision, they added, there were certain, actually CEQA mitigations is what it is. And so they added a number of components. One was that the size of the home I almost have it memorized, in general, shall not exceed the size of the homes, recently constructed homes in the area. And there's some guidance on what that area is. And it also notes that, you know, the projects, all of the sites need to go through design review, and the interpretation of that, and in the context of the city's design review guidelines are to be determined by the design review board.
Okay, but I just want to be clear on this. The language on the size of the residences that could be in there centered around the use of the term in general. And
So Christine, I'm going to stop you there.
General,
We can't discuss the actual content of it. We can't go too far into the content of it, but if there's a question there, I can answer without interpretations. I'm happy to do that.
okay, I'll try this again.
Okay.
Are we being asked to interpret the language used in the ordinance? Is that what we're being asked to do?
Yes. And not so much the language, Christine, but what that means in terms of the size of the home. So you're really being asked to determine what the size of the home should be. And that's where it clearly didn't happen at the last hearing. The item was continued by the board with direction to have the board have a discussion about that.
Okay.
And so we're going to be bringing that forward for discussion on November 17th.
So hopefully we'll get a little insight and a little guidance on that at that point.
Yeah, and we will have our city attorney, Larry McLaughlin, will be at that meeting to assist the board in walking through all of that language. And John is working on a staff report to help do a more in-depth than what we had done at the last meeting in terms of sizes of surrounding homes and those types of things.
Okay, I'm just going to add one comment to this, and it may be out of bounds, but this seems to be more a purview of the law, a legal matter, rather than the purview of interpretation by design professionals on a design review board.
And that's why we will have the city attorney at the meeting.
Yeah.
He'll be able to help assist and clarify those. But his and my readings of it both are that there are certain constraints, but it is up to the board in the context of the design guidelines and the sites what that needs to be.
So that will be a most entertaining design review board meeting.
Yeah, and just so you know, Christine, I worked in a community that had similar provisions just in the design review, where the size of the home, so they had an FAR actually based on site size, but the planning commission in that case did design review, but there were provisions that based on constraints of the site or other things, the size of the home could be reduced. The buildable, what you could build could be reduced based on characteristics. And so I do have some experience walking people through that. This is slightly different language, but it's in some ways it's the same kind of context.
Yeah.
Do you think?
And they struggled the first couple times they did it, but then they got used to it. So just so you know.
Do you think this matter would be addressed in the new design review guidelines to be less subjective?
It's something we could consider. The city of Sebastopol does not have an FAR. And in fact, there's actually some state law that just got passed that doesn't allow you to do FAR, but that's mostly a multifamily. They don't want you to basically have an FAR so loud that you can't do a multifamily in a multifamily zone. Some communities have those types of restrictions. In fact, in our downtown, we actually have a minimum FAR. So we're trying, we sort of go the other way, sort of like we have a minimum density in our multifamily zone. So, but I think there are definitely some things we can look at on that. And I'm in the process of developing an RFP to get a consultant to help us with those objective design standards right now. So,
yeah. Well, and this thing was unique to this particular subdivision. right? It wasn't something that,
Yes, this
Yeah.
is language.
Not a
specific
citywide.
to this. Yep, correct.
yeah, not a citywide standard, just a unique, kind of a strange little Easter egg
Yep.
for us to discover 20 years later.
There. Well said.
Sounds
All
good.
right. So
I'm sure
in
we
that-
will come. I'm sure Christine will come prepared for that meeting.
Yeah.
She's writing questions right now.
And I guess the one question I did have is if the board had capacity and wanted to try to fit in a tour as a special meeting in November to do some of a tour of some of the sites that we are going to be seeing, or if you wanted to wait, December, things just start getting darker, so it's a little bit more difficult. If we do I'm looking out my window right now and it's 5 o'clock and it's still fine, just in terms of walking around.
I'm game for, anytime really.
Okay, do people have work constraints in general that would be helpful guidelines for us, and we can send out a doodle poll perhaps?
So in November, the 2 weeks that we don't meet as a board, I'm out of town, both those weeks.
So that
Week of
the
the
8th and the 22nd.
Correct.
Okay.
So if it's on a Wednesday, I couldn't do it.
Okay.
I'm happy to try and do it another day, but unless we do it before a meeting or something, I guess, or
Yeah, I'm pretty flexible, so.
Somewhere in November is preferred for me because of just I need some time to schedule it. But otherwise, I'm with you on that, Ted. I can make it work somehow, or just make it work.
Okay, I'll get together with John. We'll figure out a sort of a route and approximate time and get some times and dates up to you all.
One
That's
of the ideas I had, I don't know if it's too far out, but and of course I'm always thinking about a party. So we've had lunches. Generally, the city's had a lunch for holiday time for all of us. And I don't know if it was somewhere around there, before that, or after that. That's generally when we all get together. So again, that's pushing it out another 2 months, but it's a heads up notice and stuff. So I don't know if that was on the table or not.
Well, one of the things I was thinking is if we do the tour, early enough in the day, we can end somewhere for, drinks or something.
Yeah.
In the city, I don't think we'll be doing the normal sort of holiday thank you gathering, just with COVID and everything. We're not.
Yeah, still. Okay.
Not there yet, but because we can probably find a place. So there's plenty of eating places outdoors these days. We'll advertise it post it as a public meeting. We won't record it, obviously, because we'll be out and about. Usually when I've done these in the past, it's just the board members and staff who show up. And so it's a nice time to do a little team building and socializing during the tour and afterwards.
yeah, that's great.
Yeah, it sounds
good.
It's a great idea. Great idea. Still love it. Yep.
Yeah.
Right. Perfect. Sounds great. Thank you.
All right. I think that wraps us up, does it not? Anybody have anything else? All right. Good seeing everybody, and we'll look forward to the next meeting.
Thanks.